Good evening, everyone. We're just going to be 30 seconds and we will get started. Just to let you know, Victoria will be sharing the video and the slides, anything that she's going to be presenting tonight. So that will be shared with you tomorrow. Okay.
Just wait for these last couple of people to come in through the waiting room.
Yeah.
Is that everyone sounding?
Yeah.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'm Victoria Jones. I'm the Facilities Investment Manager at Cricket Wales. Thank you for attending our webinar this evening on developing outdoor practice facilities and non-turf pitches. I'm hoping not to keep you too long and keeping it quite informative. So I'm hoping the presentation will take about 25 minutes and then there'll be an opportunity for questions and answers at the end. If I can ask everyone just to put their microphones on mute so there's no interference on the sound. There's no obligations for anyone to have their cameras on. And as Sandy said at the beginning, if you could hold your questions until the end, or pop them in the chat as we're going through. I'm hoping that I can answer most of your queries throughout the webinar, but if I don't, please feel free to pop them in the chat and we'll answer them at the end. I will be sending the slides, a recording of tonight's session and supporting information out tomorrow morning. So don't worry if you don't make enough notes, everything will be sent out in the morning. So just a little bit of an overview. What is a non-turf cricket pitch or facility? So most of you will remember these as the terminology artificial pitch or wicket. And these are non-turf cricket pitches or facility is a pitch or facility that doesn't support vegetation and is designed to function without it. Most of you will have seen facilities at cricket clubs, so either net facilities or non-turf pitches on the square, and most of these have been updated now over the years, but there are still many out there within the community that require some love, shall we say. So what is it? It includes a synthetic surface, is either rubberized or a synthetic pad, or it looks like carpet and it's laid on a different prepared basis. There seems to be a misconception that non-turf pitches or facilities are maintenance free. This isn't true, and that everyone should follow manufacturer guides to maintain these. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of background now on where non-turf pitches came from and how long they've been in the UK. So extensive research was undertaken on the current range of non-turf pitch systems between 1975 and 1985 by the ECB. And the research is still ongoing to date. Non-turf pitch systems are reviewed every 3 to 5 years and to ensure compliancy and ensure that they meet industry standards. The National Cricket Association first introduced non-turf pitch approval scheme in the early 90s, and you'll hear me talk more about the approved systems and schemes as we go through the presentation. I will also send out the approved supplier list following tonight's session, and you probably will hear me talk lots about the approved suppliers list as we move on. So that leads me on nicely. The ECB approval system. The ECB approval system has been constantly updated and is now used to ensure that pitches which have been shown to meet the requirements of the standards are installed. Sport Wales and ECB, which many of you will ask for your support to fund your projects, will require a supplier and system off this list. It's vitally important where financial grants are involved, as I just indicated. The supplier of an approved pitch system must provide evidence of the quality of the facility to be installed and having achieved the requirements of the standards, and this will come out in the quotes that you obtain from the supplier. Again, the systems are detailed on the approved supplier list, and you'll be able to access these. The supplier must have also signed the code of practice set by the ECB, and this is a voluntary code, but it ensures quality control and that they are innovative in their ways of working. Okay, over the past 12 months, when we've been reviewing Sport Wales grants or ECB grant funding systems, and one of the things that we often refer grants back for is not having thought about a couple of things in your application. So things that I would suggest that you think about before even starting your either non-turf pitch project or your outdoor practice facility project is your tenure, landlord's consent and planning permission. It's worth thinking about these now, as sometimes they can be quite difficult to obtain. So if we first talk about tenure is really, really important when you're applying for funding, but also when you're looking at the long-term use of your facility. Do you have the freehold? Does your organisation outrightly own your facility? If you do, then you will need evidence of this with your title deed. If your organisation has a lease, then if you are applying for Sport Wales funding, whether it be crowdfunder or Be Active Wales funding, you will need a minimum of 7 years on your lease. If you're applying for ECB funding or an interest-free loan, then you need either a lease or a licence that is for a minimum of 1 year. Whilst these may seem really, really simple, actually, sometimes it can be really hard to obtain the paperwork if your organisation is a number of years old. Grant funders require this paperwork as part of their due diligence when applying for funding. Landlord's consent. If you have a lease or a licence, all grant funders will require a consent from your landlord on headed paper or email, giving their consent for the work. And the third one that's always kind of, it's quite surprising to many people, is planning permission. So whether you're developing a non-turf pitch on your square or outfield or an outdoor practice facility, you will require planning permission. If you are completing a refurbishment of your outdoor net facility, or your non-turf practice facility, your non-turf pitch, you may also need new planning permission if you are changing the system that you are using. So you'll need to, if you are not changing the system, you'll need to find evidence of the system that you originally installed. Sometimes this can probably be quite difficult. And as systems have changed and developed over a period of time, it may be worth applying for planning permission again. Specifically, if you're applying for funding, the funders won't allocate funding until planning permission has been granted. So just to reiterate, full planning applications are required for both non-turf pitches and outdoor practice facilities. If it's a new project, you will definitely need this, and examples of successful applications can be found on your local authority planning portal. So in Wales, each local authority has their own individual planning portal. So if you go to your local authority, type in planning permission, and you'll need to complete a full planning application. Again, the costs vary between local authorities, so I cannot give you a guide on how much this will cost, but it's normally in the range of £200 to £300. Refurbishments, as I said, this will also be required unless you have the design brief from the original installation and you are using the same system. Otherwise, you will need to apply for planning permission again. And as I said, grant funders will always ask for evidence as part of their due diligence process. So now we're going to move on to look actually at developing the project. So there's some just general guidance that the ECB have on their website. Again, I will send you a link after tomorrow morning, along with the PowerPoint and the recording, but what to think about when developing your project. And we'll go through each of these stages. So orientation, location, and the risk survey for the installation of practice facilities. Okay, orientation. So it's your facility should be sited from north to south to avoid batting or bowling into the setting sun. Now, there may be instances where this cannot be avoided, but you should aim to mitigate this. Approved suppliers should be able to give you a guide on this when you're seeking advice and guidance from them initially. But if not, please contact your area manager or myself for some additional support and we can see where we can help. However, there may be extreme circumstances where this is not possible, but if we can evidence why this isn't possible, then we'll be okay to proceed with any funding applications. Okay. The location. Trees, yes, trees need to be considered as they create shadows when there's sunny conditions, and it might be difficult to see the ball. I know we all haven't seen the sun much recently, but hopefully we will see it at some time this summer. Trees also cause debris, which can cause an issue and deterioration to the playing surfaces, so it's best to keep well away. Buildings, like trees, can cause shadows, but they could also change the current of the wind and have effect on the playability of the facility. Sloping land may also cause an issue, so you need to have a level ground. Again, approved suppliers will be best to advise if any excavation or backfilling is required. Okay, risk survey for the installation of practice facilities. Now, there's three main areas that need consideration. And what I'm going to do is detail these areas and the considerations that you'll need to make or think about with your committee or project management board when developing this project. I know these are all really, really exciting elements, so I do apologize, they're quite dry. So safety. So we've just covered the orientation, trees and the ground conditions. But it's also worth noting, I know we have roads there, but it's also worth noting neighbours. Remember, there will be a full planning application, and it's worth thinking where your facility lies. Are your neighbour, is the house next to you right close to the practice facility? Will it create noise and will it have effect from your neighbours? You're likely to have less objections to your planning application if it's moved further away from your neighbours. We know at cricket clubs we're having more and more complaints coming from our neighbours than anyone else, so it's something to really consider when developing your application. Paths and walkways are good to consider as well. So depending on your facility, if you're looking at an open practice net facility, this can be a hazard to passers-by or the users using the facility if they're getting distracted. So it's worth really considering where those areas are. Okay, so the quality. As I referred to previously, the ECB have an approved suppliers and systems that meet the standards. So it's worth considering. So that's when it comes to pitches, but when it comes to nets, what cage are you going to use? Is it going to be completely enclosed? Are you near or have a socket in the facility? So I know many of you use bowling machines when you're in the practice net facilities. Have you got a socket, or do you need an extension lead from somewhere? And how are you going to ensure this is safe? Design. It's important to get engaged with the approved supplier to get this right. Some will come out to site and some will complete a desk-based exercise, but all are on the approved supplier list and have met the quality standards from the ECB. Okay, and lastly, resources. So all projects like this come down to funding and how you are going to finance your new practice facility, whether it be a non-turf pitch or net facility. So how are you going to fund this project? Projects estimate, so for a non-turf pitch, we're looking at approximately £12,000. For practice nets facilities, one bay between 20 and 25,000, two bay between 25 and 30,000, and if we're looking at four bay, it's upwards of £60,000. So you need to think about your budget and how you're going to finance this. Is this going to come from grant funding? If this is being grant funded this time, you'll need to start thinking about, at this stage, a sink fund for your future projects. We know that public funding is diminishing, so it's really, really important that we start to plan from this stage. Is how are you going to maintain your facility year on year to ensure that you have the best facilities, but also how are you going to fund a refurbishment or a new facility in the future? Maintenance, I just briefly touched on. Will you take out a maintenance program with the installation company, or will you do the maintenance yourself? Do you have the time, the specialist skills, and do you have the resources available to be able to complete this maintenance? I would very much advise or guide you towards speaking to the approved supplier who will install your facility about a maintenance program and what you need to do. And finally, insurance. Remember to change your insurance policy to include your new non-turf pitch and your outdoor practice facility for the full replacement costs. We know that the non-turf pitches specifically are perfect places for people in public areas to have barbecues. So whilst it's very, very frustrating, you need to ensure that that's included in your insurance cover, because there's no point in having a non-turf practice facility with a burn hole right in the middle. Also, additionally, most cricket facilities are now, have always been on floodplains, and obviously we see with the changing climate, we are seeing more and more clubs flooding. So it's really important that this protection is in your insurance policy as well, but it's just something to note. So I referred quite often to the type of system and approved suppliers list. This is the approved suppliers list. I will send you this out tomorrow via email, and it gives you the supplier and the approved system. So when you're gaining quotes, and you'll need 3 quotes to apply for Sport Wales funding and 3 quotes to apply for ECB funding if you're applying for anything over £24,999. So you'll need to get 3 quotes from different suppliers. Okay, installation. Don't let temptation over. Please wait for the professionals. So I know everyone is trying to save money these days, and there are elements of this project that, or non-turf pitch projects or outdoor practice facilities, that you may feel you have the skills for in your organisation. But please seek a guidance from the approved suppliers before you complete any. You may think you have the skills in-house to complete the groundwork, but this is part of the substructure of the base of these products. And without the right groundwork, then your system will not be an approved system by ECB. We are trying to help you in the long run. Okay, so just a little bit about the quality. The quality levels to which facility should be installed can be found in the ECB Code of Practice and the ECB Performance Standards for non-turf cricket pitches for outdoor use. All the approved suppliers will have signed the Code of Practice and the Performance Standards. So that was that list that I showed you on the previous page. So I'm just going to show you a few examples of unacceptable features on non-turf practice pitches. You'll just note some here. So the joining of surfaces isn't even, contours not acceptable, bowlers run up not married into the surrounding ground. If you have any concern after using an approved supplier, please let us know, or the ECB facilities team. We can then help you with some next steps, but hopefully by using one of the approved suppliers, they will have signed all of the codes of practice and understand the systems that they are installing in your club. So hopefully you shouldn't end up with any of these issues. Okay, one of the biggest failings of organisations is selecting a net and cage system, is the lack of understanding as to the extent billowing occurs when the ball impacts the net. Now, this can be from 300 millimetres to 1.8, depending on the system. Again, seek advice from the approved supplier. They will be able to assist you with the tension of the nets. Another one that's interesting, and I think people forget because they think purely about the playing facilities, is protecting your facility from rabbits, foxes, and other animals. Yeah, you heard me right. Unfortunately, these all cause damage to the bottom of netting. So to protect these, you might want to add a skirt to the bottom of the outer net. And it's important that it's from the outer net, as that's where they're mostly coming from. And lastly, remember to obtain warranties on the entire system. Again, the ECB approved suppliers will do this for you. Okay, funding. This is the bit everybody always wants to know about, is how can I fund my non-turf pitch or my outdoor practice facility? So there are many, many options on how you can do this, but these are three of the most preferred options by our cricket clubs in Wales. You can either look at each individual option or even a combination of these options. So the Sport Wales Be Active Wales funding. Lots of our clubs have been really, really successful over the past 6-7 years in obtaining funding for new outdoor practice facilities or non-turf pitches. Sport Wales require a minimum of 7 years on a lease to access any of their funding for capital projects. Additionally, there has been a change as of today on the ceiling amount that Sport Wales will fund for these projects. So both non-turf pitches and outdoor practice facilities, they will now only fund up to 50% of the project costs, and that's up to a maximum of £20,000, not £2,000, sorry, £20,000 per application. So if your project is a £40,000 net project, they will fund £20,000 and you will have to match fund the £20,000. Another option is the ECB County Grant Fund. Whilst this is closed this year, it's well worth noting that this will most probably open on the 1st of February 2025. So now you have time to plan for your applications. ECB require a minimum of 1 year license or lease to apply for the funding, and the maximum grant you can have up to is £10,000. It's really important, if you are thinking of applying for the county grant fund, you will have to have a women and girls team playing in the hardball competitive cricket, and these must be demonstrated on play cricket. So this summer you've got time to ensure all your matches are on play cricket for your women's hardball teams. And additionally, the last one is the ECB interest-free loan. And I know the word loan often scares many people, but actually this is a really, really good concept where clubs can access funding relatively quickly with little comeback. Now, it's a great option to complete a project, specifically as Sport Wales have reduced the amount of funding or support for outdoor practice facility projects and non-turf pitches as of today. So the loan is 0%, and the loan request can be up to £50,000 payable over 5 years. If you want more information, there is information on the ECB website. And I will send out additional information about the ECB interest-free loan tomorrow. But if you do want a chat about an interest-free loan, please drop me a message. Okay, finally, I've just put some useful links in here. I will detail which links these are, but they are links to the ECB guidance on developing practice facilities, the ECB approved supplier and system list, the Sport Wales Be Active Wales Fund, and the ECB County Grant Fund, and the ECB interest-free loan. Can I just reiterate, anyone that would like help developing a project, please let your area manager know. So that's Sue Wells in the north, Kerry Shahal in the west, and Mark White in South East, or myself know, and one of us will be able to engage in a conversation with you on how to develop the project. Additionally, if you'd like us to proofread any applications before submission, we're also happy to do this, as we want to ensure a streamlined process for you. And that concludes us. I think I'm on time. Oh, just a minute over. So thank you for your time this evening. If you've got any questions, please feel free to ask them in the chat. I'm not sure if you've got any.
Yes, we've got 2 questions so far. Okay. The first one is about planning permission. If a club owns its own ground, does it still have to have planning permission for an NTP?
Yes, it does.
Okay. And then the next question, the ladies and girls hardball cricket, is this a new requirement?
No, this has been a requirement as part of the county grant fund now for the last couple of years. So, and those of you who will have attended the county grant webinar, that was one of the stipulations on just practice facilities.
Okay, another question's come in. How do we expand cricket on council land that does not have a non-turf pitch?
This is a really difficult question. This is something that we're actually looking at as part of our facility strategy. We're just about to work in conjunction with the ECB on how we improve grass pitch facilities. I don't know if where that question, which local authority that question has come from. Last year, we worked really, really closely with ECB as part of the 100 campaign, and 6 non-turf pitches were installed in Cardiff. So we're hoping to roll out that programme or a similar programme further in the near future.
Okay, the council is Newport. I don't know if you've had any dealings with Newport.
Not yet. We are looking to do a project with Newport Council. Any other questions?
I think that's it for questions. No other questions have come in.
I'll stay on for a minute, but thank you very much for your time. And as I said, just to reiterate, we'll send out all the the PowerPoint presentation tomorrow with the recording of tonight's session, with the associated supporting documents. Thank you everyone for your time. I really appreciate it.
Double key.
So loud.
You want to stop your presentation, Vic, and then I can see if everybody's left. Couple just leaving.